Welcome. It's the Worth Knowing live stream. We are on every single platform imaginable, known to woman and man and all others across the known universe. We're on YouTube, both in profile and in landscape format. We're on my Substack, Worth Knowing with Matt Robison. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, X, Groovy. I'm beginning to make up platforms here, and I am so excited because for a long time, before we pioneered the live streaming format, this was a podcast only. For a long time it was audio, and then we moved into video. We were on YouTube, and a cornerstone of the Beyond Politics podcast was our weekly roundtable discussion with me, former Democratic staffer, congressional campaign manager, my former boss in Congress, Paul Hodes, who was Barack Obama's 2008 national co-chairman and a long-term Congressman, and our friend Alicia Prescott Xanthopolous, who is a Republican political consultant. And we would have great weekly, upbeat, vibrant, positive conversations about politics and all else. And at the very end of the year, we would hand out year-end awards. We called our show the Balance of Power Roundtable, BOP, and we named our end-of-year awards the Boppies. And so we are thrilled to bring back this annual tradition, a yearly custom, the Boppies. We are going to have our end of year awards. And because we're live streaming, we are going to be able to involve all of you. We're going to go through the categories, and you are going to be able to weigh in through the chats as people often do. And yes, Kinky Streets, I see you. I see you right here. And this is live. We are live right now. And speaking of live, guess who's alive after his bout with the flu? Former U.S. Congressman Paul Hodes, my former boss in Congress, like I said, Barack Obama's right-hand man in 2008, and our friend, Republican political consultant and woman about the state of New Hampshire, radio personality, Alicia Prescott Xanthopolous. I am thrilled to see you both.
I'm thrilled to see you, and if Alicia Preston Xanthopolous shows up, let me know.
Because
I just call you Preston. No, you know why? You know why I'm all messed up. It's because I wanted to intro you with a little bit of a surprise. Because
well done.
when we did our final show for our roundtable, we had a very, very special call-in from a very, very special caller, and I have a piece of video from that. And I had it all teed up. This is for everyone. Here we go. This is real. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Donald Trump Beyond Poppycocks is a podcast that's failing very badly, horrible. But I want to say that Elsa Van Popsicle is the only good one. She's not a rhino. That's fake news. So best of luck to Alicia Prescott, Zen Poppycock, and let's make podcasting great again.
So you see, Donald got right into my head right there, and I had that all ready to go as a welcome back surprise for you. Okay. And thank you to our moderators here, Jim Williams, the Cynthia Rice, and I agree. Please like and subscribe. And with that, let's get right into this because we have 10 categories for our year-end awards. Yes, my brain is mush. It's the holidays, man. Oh, no, you're talking about our president. Yeah. All right. So we're going to get right into this. Here are the ground rules. I'm going to run through the categories. We have it all set up. We have nominees in each category, and I'm going to read through them very quickly. Then we're going to discuss. But because we are still a democracy on this show, even if we are not in the United States of America, Paul and Alicia are invited, as always, to nominate their own contenders that they'd like to put up. And I'd like to invite all of you in the chats to please feel free to do the same. You can weigh in with nominees you'd like to see us discuss or add, or your own votes for the winners. We all ready?
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Oh my gosh. Press kit Zen Poppycock. All right, here we go. Category number 1, most valuable player on the Democratic side. Here are your 2025 nominees. We have the combination of Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and Adelita Grijalva for their visible role in the bipartisan House push to force the release of the Epstein files. We have Ken Martin, who took over the DNC and was a functional, living, breathing human being as chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Not sure what he did, but he was there doing it. We had Hakeem Jeffries, who somehow led, I guess that's the verb for it, the Democratic House caucus strategy, whatever they did. We have Chuck Schumer, who sort of did the same thing on the Senate side, and much to the pleasure of the Democratic base, belatedly led a shutdown fight that did force healthcare onto the national agenda. We have Zoran Mamdani, who became one of the most visible voices in the Democratic Party and on the and finally, two late-breaking nominees. We have Donald Trump for completely fucking up every element of his presidency so badly that he's nosedived opinion polls and helped the Democratic Party more than anyone else. And very last, but certainly not least, we have an inanimate steel rod, which just sat there, like most of the Democratic Party, but did no harm to itself and did not bend under Donald Trump's demands, unlike the Democratic Party. Paul, as a Democrat, I'd like to invite you to go first.
Oy vey. Happy New Year, everybody. What a cavalcade of disaster. What you missed was the dynamic duo, I think, of Bernie Sanders and AOC, which really have to go as a pair for going out and trying to keep the fires burning while our brains were burning up. 2025 was a year like no other. Given the end of democracy as we know it. So to that extent, Donald Trump had a big hand. Hakeem Jeffries manages to be the most boring leader in history, second only to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, who needs a little help on his whole visible thing. Ken Martin, who let's just say made a real raspberry when he refused to release the report, the after electoral defeat report that might have shed some light for Democrats, but decided not to do it. Ro Khanna, he's been out there. That's good for him. Zoran Mamdani, in some ways, Zoran is kind of the hero of the Democratic Party in 2025. He won in New York, not that any Democrat wasn't going to win, but he beat the establishment guy, Mr. Crooked Cuomo. He put...
oh my gosh, Paul Hodes, why didn't we elect you to the Senate? You're filibustering. What's your answer?
Zoran Mamdani.
Okay. Wow, that was quite a wind-up. Okay, all right, Alicia.
Yeah, I got a tie. I think it's hands down Donald Trump. Because if you look at all the special elections with Democrat successes across the country in the last year, none of them actually succeeded because of the Democratic candidate. They succeeded because Donald Trump is such a bad bearer of the Republican title, and his sycophants are such horrible candidates to go along with him. So I think the Democrats should be thanking Donald Trump, and they're going to want to thank him in a little less than a year, too, because he's walking Democrat success for the midterms in 2026. Now, my tie is the inanimate steel rod, because it's supposed to do nothing. The Democrats in Congress aren't supposed to do nothing, but they are. So at least the steel rod is doing what it's only intended to do.
I was going to say literally exactly the same thing there, Alicia. Literally the same thing. I'd like to enter the late-breaking MVP, Cynthia Rice's dog. And as a dog lover, Alicia, I know. And this is, I'm sorry, the loss of your dog, Alicia, is a big deal. Like, longtime listeners know that I like to joke about animals because I'm not an animal person, and I like to say that they come in two varieties, dangerous and delicious. But I reserved a special place for Alicia's dog, who passed away this year, and that was extremely sad. And a total sidebar that's now making me sad in the middle of what is supposed to be a lighthearted show.
Let me bring a tiny amount of joy on that front, though, because Atticus's death was horrific, terrible, and sad. And thank you both for the times that I called you just bawling and unable to do shows and things. But there is a new member of the Xanthopolous family. His name is Ruddick. He is an 8-month-old terrorist who's destroying our lives. And we love him.
I thought you were going to say terrier.
Terrorist.
Okay, Prescott Poppycock.
He's a member of Donald Trump's cabinet.
Oh my gosh, that's really spectacular. And happy birthday to all the fur babies out there. For all the people in the chat. But all right, we seem to have Zoran, Donald Trump, and an inanimate steel rod in a three-way tie. I actually think we've somehow gotten to the correct answer. I really do. Let's move on to MVP for the GOP. I hate GOP. I think that's stupid. I think it's the dumbest acronym in the world. It's freaking stupid. Anyway, it's neither grand nor old nor really a party anymore. All right, MVP for the GOP nominees for 2025. You got to say Donald Trump as the unavoidable MVP. He did indeed dominate the Republican Party, its agenda, its people, the people who went to jail, the people who are no longer in jail. Good for you, Mr. President, sir. We have White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, who was the architect behind a much more disciplined Trump operation than Donald Trump managed to maintain in 2017, much better than the previous shit show, I guess, if you care about some kind of organization. In the
she of the alcoholic personality.
No. She was calling out the alcohol. She does not herself have one. Mike Johnson, who is, as far as we can tell, a human being, a mammal. He was Speaker of the House. And he did last in that job, which required him to sit in a seat and be a real boy. So he did that. J.D. Vance, who once again played translator between Trump poppycock, to borrow a phrase, and somewhat normal, rational human speech. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene, a surprising MVP nominee for her evolution, which we can touch on more later, to a full break with Donald Trump and the party. And finally, we have the Supreme Court of the United States of America for its deep devotion to the Republican cause and all things Trump. Alicia, you are still a Republican for reasons that I still don't understand, but that's okay. We love you. So why don't you lead us on this one? Who is the Republican MVP?
First of all, I'm still a Republican because they want me to go, so I refuse to because I'm stubborn. So I've got another tie. One is obviously Donald Trump, right? He's managed to succeed in all the things he wanted to succeed. He's managed to get all of Congress, with the exception of 4 or 5 Republicans, all Republican members of Congress, to abdicate their duties, to lose their integrity, and bail on their entire belief system to follow him down whatever road he's going down. They don't do their job. They let him do what he wants. They're all supportive of the expansion of executive power all of a sudden and don't care that they've got a job with a separate branch of government. He succeeded in making that happen. We got to give him credit for that. The other one, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because what she did by breaking with Trump when she was such a follower, such a sycophant, is she gave a lot of people, and I've seen this publicly and privately, a lot of Republicans the okay to break away themselves. And it kind of was the start of a little bit of a shift that we're seeing, because if someone like her can break from Donald Trump, people are going, okay, maybe he has gone too far. I agree with her.
All right, Paul.
So the longest term impact that we are going to see is from what has happened with the Supreme Court. That's going to carry forward for many, many years, even when the great orange pumpkin has been eaten by chipmunks. And J.D. Vance's eyeliner has caused him to go blind. So they're going to have the longest term impact. But the most surprising and best news for a Democrat in 2025 was Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, although still completely a whack job, has given some cover and some hope that the GOP, so-called, can recover its senses and decultify at some point. There's something happened to her. I don't know. She stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. She drank the Kool-Aid. I don't know what, but she's my hero of 2025 for Republicans.
I would like to shout out the contribution from our good friend, MJ, who nominated Pam Bondi, Keg Stand, and Brainworm. I actually think Brainworm is next level. I think Brainworm is. I might have to go with Brainworm. You know what, MJ? You're right. I'm going to go with Brainworm. You know why? Because pound for pound, Brainworm punched above. Let's go with her. I'd like to say that more female leadership on the Republican side is good. So let's make Brainworm a her, and we'll say that Brainworm punched way above her weight in terms of infecting our Secretary of Health and Human Services and causing whole-scale destruction of vaccination, which is going to be a lasting impact for America. Brainworm, you are my GOP MVP. Yes. Go brainworm. All right, let's go on to our next category. And by the way, apologies, I'm doing a worse job than I normally like to aspire to with trying to do the chats and talking and moderating and controlling videos and getting Alicia's name right. I had the wrong banner running at the top of the show, but we're back on track. Let's go to one of our favorite categories over the last couple of years, something we had to include in last year's and now this year's Poppies, our 2025 Perp of the Year. Our nominees are, well, you can't have a Perp of the Year category without Donald Trump. He is the GOAT. He might be such a GOAT here that he's disqualified from future awards, but you gotta have him up there. It's like, it's like Michael Jordan. Like he's always going to be nominated. Donald Trump Jr. Cracks the list this year for his aggressive monetization. Just a quick sidebar. I'd like to point out that this is a real father-son. We could combine these into one. The father made the Justice Department do away with the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, which did transnational crime, drug, and human trafficking networks. Interesting that. And at the exact same time, Don Jr. led a blitz across the Middle East and Eastern Europe earlier this year in a cash rush that involved billions of dollars, cryptocurrency, Russian assets. Absolutely incredible. So those are two of your potential perps of the year. We've got Benjamin Netanyahu for prolonging war amid his ongoing corruption trials and domestic backlash. We've got Clarence Thomas for yet more ethics controversies, undisclosed relationships with powerful money brokers. Eric Adams, who was seemingly whisked from the threshold of prison. Bob Menendez, who was not and actually went to prison. Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who was unaccountably pardoned by Donald Trump. And finally, once again, the Supreme Court, not for one ruling, but for its cumulative legacy of damaging the rule of law. So, Paul, I guess it's your turn. Who is your 2025 Perp of the Year?
Well, look, as a former prosecutor, these are all close to my heart. I love this category and really appreciate the criminality that you've outlined here because it's on a massive scale. I'm going to have to combine a few things to say that my Perp of the Year for 2025 has got to be the Trump family mafia crime syndicate. The entire family, as a perpetrator of corruption and criminality, really has no equal in American history. Their wealth has tripled, billions of dollars due to cryptocurrency, the deals they're making. As for the president, his latest invasions, whether it's Nigeria or Venezuela, are all related to natural resources. I mean, the corruption is so great and so wonderful. It brings me such joy to say it's the Trump crime family syndicate.
Alicia.
I think Paul's onto something. I think the entire family has monetized the presidency of the United States of America, and it's shameful. But I'm going to go with Donald Trump, but I'm going to go with him for a specific, putting aside the policy, the expansion of executive powers and those things. And there are some things I like, bombing terrorists in Nigeria. Okay, fine, great, kill the terrorists. But here's what he's done that I can't forgive. And that is his language he uses against those that don't agree with him. I find it dangerous. It's mean. What he said about Rob Reiner and his wife was absolutely disgusting. And the only thing that brought me a little bit of hope is that a lot of big name Republicans condemned it. But he does it daily to daily people, to reporters. He calls them out for their appearances and their attitudes. And if they ask a legitimate question he doesn't want to answer, he name calls them like he's a 7th grade boy who the girl that he likes doesn't like him back. Leadership isn't just about signing pieces of paper with your name that might become law. Leadership is setting a standard. And he has set the lowest standard of any president in my lifetime.
I am really stumped, and I'm going to filibuster for a moment here by just calling out, we are not afraid to call out the mean comments along with the positive engagement that we get here. So Nate the Gen thinks we're so boring. It's just another Trump derangement syndrome channel. It's to the point the left love Trump more than the MAGA, the MAGA. They can't go 5 seconds without his name. It is true. We would really listen. Alicia Prescott Xanthopolous, who is a Republican, a legit Republican who has run presidential campaigns for Republicans, would like nothing better, I'm sure, than to stop saying that motherfucker's name. So we're with you, Nate the Gen. And
would have been a great Christmas present. But can I just point out to that listener, look, the fact is the man is the president of the United States and the self-proclaimed leader of the free world. You can't have a conversation about politics and governance without mentioning it. Yeah,
a word. And moreover, we have more to the point, Darren Schwartz-IL6FZ, who may or may not be a robot. How fucking dumb are you people, really? I don't know. I can't answer that one either. I mean,
you ain't seen nothing yet, Daryl. Just wait.
We can get way dumber than this.
Wait for the rest of the show, man. We are so dumb. We are so dumb.
Speaking of dumb, I'm going to go with Bob Menendez. I'm handing it out to Bob Menendez. I wanted to go with Juan Orlando Hernandez, but I'm going to go with Bob Menendez because how fucking dumb. You're taking your payoffs in gold bars, motherfucker. What are you doing? Okay, well, anyway, that guy.
Slipped today on the market, so he's really stupid. Anyway, let's keep going.
Let's go to, this is one of these categories that like they have in the Oscars. It's like best gaffer, and it's like, what is this? Why do you still have this? Like, wasn't this replaced by AI like 50 years ago? Yeah. We have a category here, best achievement in legislation. What an anachronism! Like, we don't pass legislation anymore, but yet here we are. We have to cover this category because it's a tradition. It's just something we do. And Jose Marie and boy, you are a lot of bots. Look, if you're a bot, don't put the like TDX 9000 after the dash in your name. It just gives away the game. It's like you might as well put your serial number, people. But Josie would like to offer God bless Trump and his family. Well, I don't wish harm on any human being, so sure. All right. Anyway,
God bless us, everyone.
Yes. All right. Best achievement in legislation. We'll do this one quickly. The one big, beautiful bill. It was, in fact, the biggest piece of legislation, so we're obligated to name it. It was kind of a cluster, you know what? However, we're going to name it. Let's get on to some other ones. We have the Laken-Riley Act, which was a bipartisan bill that requires detention without bond of non-citizens charged with certain crimes. Kind of a tough on crime and immigration legislative piece. We have the Genius Act, which establishes, this is a euphemism, establishes a regulatory framework for payment stable coins. What it really does is exempt from regulation cryptocurrency. That was a bill that our Congress passed, so that's great. The Veterans Compensation Increase Act, that's the snakes on a plane approach to naming legislation. They're going to increase compensation for veterans. That's what it does. Opioid use disorder prevention and treatment bill, which reauthorizes programs for opioid use disorder prevention and recovery. That's a good thing. And finally, the Epstein Records Release Act, aforementioned, forced down the throats of the unhappy Republican Party. Speaking of unhappy Republicans, Alicia, you lead us off.
I think several of these bills were good. The Laken-Riley Act was a solid piece of legislation. Veterans compensation to extend their benefits, solid piece of legislation. Obviously, continuing treatment and prevention for opioid disorder, very solid piece of legislation. But I'm going to go with the Epstein Records Release Act because while it is not a funny story, it is a horrible tale that went on for many years. What was funny was to watch lawmakers struggle for 24 hours to figure out what the heck to do because none of them wanted this stuff released, but they were actually pressured to do so because that was the will of the American people. They fell to the American people as they should. The fact that the DOJ is flouting the law is separate from this, but it was fun to watch them forced into doing what the people asked them to do.
So, Alicia, that was a very smart and cogent argument. I agree with you that the veterans and the opioid bills were actual bills. I'm amazed that the Republicans got anything done, but those were actual bills that did good things. I'm particularly interested as a former member of the Financial Services Committee for the Stablecoin and Genius Act, because together they really set the stage for a completely unregulated world of cryptocurrency, which I think in the end is going to come back to bite people, because if crypto is going to be ultimately used as a stable form of currency, an actual regulatory scheme is probably a good idea. So that's where I come down.
I would first of all like to say to some random guy speaks who may or may not be some or random or a guy who says, I'm a Trump supporter. Good. Welcome. I appreciate people with different views engaging on this show, and I look forward to your positive contributions. I am once again betwixt and between. I guess I'm going to go Epstein here, just because, not because of its legislative impact. I mean, Paul, you're right about that, but just because of what it augurs, the shreds of backbone that Lauren Boebert showed in standing up to the Trump Star Chamber full court press. Like, they literally pulled her into the Situation Room to say, drop off this. And she was like, no, I'm too busy vaping. I mean, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, I did not have this on my bingo card last year that I would be praising these people, but there are Republicans who put their careers in some jeopardy, and in some cases lost their careers, to do what they thought was right. And I don't care about the genesis of it, but they stood up to Mike Johnson. They stood up to Donald Trump, who was sock puppeting Mike Johnson, and I mean that biologically. And I think that is praiseworthy and important in the larger political context. Okay, let's move on. This is a big one. You know how the Oscars starts out with like a big category and then they like try to sprinkle some other big categories in amongst the dross? Well, we've hit a big category. We have news story of the year for 2025. This is huge. All right, here we go. Your nominees, which I'm going to fire at you like a howitzer. Trump's return to the White House and immediate consequences for the rest of us. We have the Ukraine war grinding on despite Trump's promise to end it in 24 hours. The evolution of the war in Gaza and the fallout, the ongoing fallout from the ceasefire and the ramifications of the war. We have the U.S. economy and its sclerotic behavior, refusing to behave the way voters think it should. We have artificial intelligence crossing multiple thresholds and driving the U.S. economy and driving the future of work. We have the wobbling of long-standing stable democracies in France, Germany, the UK, and the United States. And finally, we have the crumbling of media institutions under political pressure. Those are your nominees for News Story of the Year. Paul, why don't you lead us off?
I think you've got to put together Trump's return, wobbling democracies, and institutions bending as a triumvirate. I think that it wasn't so much Trump's election, but I don't think anybody was prepared for the degree to which Project 2025 and the authoritarianism and the unraveling of democracy was planned and executed. It was brilliantly done by people who had not been prepared during the first term, but were now prepared when they came into office. And it led and is leading to global shocks that really have wobbled the entire status quo of how the Western world thinks it operates.
So in all seriousness, you're sort of blending these together into one like octopus of evil with Trump as sort of like the cephalopod head causing all of these downstream reactions.
Yeah, it might be Stephen Miller more than Trump, because Trump is really just a decorator now, White House, East Wing, all that. He's just decorating. But Miller really had it in mind.
And just before we go to Alicia, yes, get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane. Gosh, Curtis Knight. I love the name of that movie, and I make a reference to it like every 5 minutes. It's spectacular. Yes, Alicia.
When I used to work campaigns, one of my staffers who was with me for many years on many campaigns used to call me Samuel L. Jackson because I'd have fits of rage that reminded him of that movie.
Do you also curse more when you're working a campaign? Like, I haven't worked a campaign in many years, but like my wife was sort of, she's sort of astonished. Like, I don't curse that much in casual conversation normally, but when I'm working a campaign, I am a fucking sailor. It's terrible. Are you the same way?
I was. Oh, geez.
Well, I'm glad
they
you've
didn't have like our phones, well, you could take video on your phone, but it wasn't as easy as now. People didn't put it up on Twitter. So I'm kind of glad there's no record of it. So no, I wasn't. I was always the sweet angel that I am now.
Oh, yes. Well,
there's no evidence to the
goes without
contrary.
saying. So what is the news story of the year?
This one's hard. I think any one of them that you've listed could be the news story of the year. I'm going to pick media institutions bending under political pressure. And I'm going to pick that because this is a very near and dear concept to me. I mean, I literally 500 years ago when I applied for colleges, I wrote my entry papers on the importance of the fourth estate. That's how much it mattered to me when I was 18.
And you used to be a reporter, for people who don't know.
Yes, I used to be a reporter. I used to be one of these journalists. And I know we all think the media is biased and it makes us mad. But here's the thing. Let's not forget history. The media has always been biased. Just look at America. Forget the fact that Europe was too. Look at every major city. Since the dawn of these cities, they've had two, at minimum, newspapers, a conservative and a liberal. There's always been a political tilt to news media. It's not new. What's surprising is people think it is. They can be biased, but they have to be there. They have to be back at the Pentagon, knowing what's going on there. They have to be reporting the news without fear or favor from the government. There's a reason it's in our First Amendment, the importance of the free speech, and that extends to the press. And so I'm dismayed and saddened when I see these lawsuits, and I see CBS recently pulling a poll on SEPCOT or whatever it's called, the prison in El Salvador, because it's cowardly, but more importantly, it's destroying an institution of 200 plus years in the United States of America.
I think this is an interesting comment from Carrie Ann Fisher, 673. 2025 is the year America fell, gradually, then suddenly, all at once. I mean, that's a Hemingway reference, I believe. Gradually and then suddenly and all at once. I'm going to go a little off menu here. And I think Paul's idea of maybe it's all connected and it's like one meta story. I'm going to apply that to your point, Alicia, about the news media, because I'm going to go with AI. AI was responsible for 92% of GDP growth in the US in 2025. AI is distorting our sense of reality. AI is distorting our jobs, our livelihoods. I use AI for research. I never use it for what I write or for what I say, but I use it for research. But I have to verify constantly everything that we put up here. I used AI for research, and then I re-verified it manually because AI is so distortionary. Our basic understanding of what's real, that's what I think connects to your point, Alicia, that we're having that wobbled by the news media, and we're having it wobbled by AI, and we're having our economy completely fundamentally changed by AI. And it does feel like we're at a bit of a tipping point, to carry a point, and we may look back and say 2025, that's the year it happened. All right, let's move on. All right, this is the portion of the awards where we start getting into longer explanatory descriptions for nominees. I am going to start talking like the Micro Machines guy in those old ads. I'm going to go fast here. So once again, I'd like to invite people in the chats to weigh in with your own nominees or your votes. I will try to catch up with my displaying the chats up. And I will say, I don't know what to say about all the presence of trolls in the portrait view on YouTube. I'm not sure what's up with that. But for people who are participating, if you are here as a Republican or a Trump supporter, you've got a fellow Republican right here as part of our panel. We welcome you. We invite you to engage. Just no trolling people. Like, let's keep it simple. All right. Most interesting public opinion research story for 2025. This is my I've cited this statistic so many times. Low information voters, the finding, they were the ones who shaped and decided 2024. They favored Donald Trump by 19 points. People who follow the news some or a lot favored Kamala Harris by 6 points. That is what decided the election. Number two, Americans say the economy is bad, but they're acting like it's fine. We see that in consumer sentiment surveys. The appraisal of the economy is at its second lowest point ever, but consumer spending has reached its highest point ever. Number three, immigration views are far more pragmatic than the elite rhetoric would have us believe. Large bipartisan majorities continue to say that immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, mostly fill jobs that Americans don't want, even as voters support tougher border enforcement. Number four, influencers are now a core source of news, especially for young adults. Over a third of Americans under 30 say they regularly get news from social media influencers. Oh my gosh. Number 5, global confidence in U.S. democracy continued to fall in 2025. A plurality of respondents in advanced democracies say the U.S. is no longer a good example of democracy. Number 6, COVID vaccine refusal hardened into long-term distrust. 60% of Americans say they don't plan to get updated COVID vaccines. Let me see. I'm gonna skip down because we have so many nominees. Number 7, perceived discrimination against Jews remains elevated post 2024. A spike post October 7th, 2023. Americans, number 8, trust local institutions more than national ones. And finally, number 9, Americans think democracy at risk, but we disagree on from whom. Republicans and Democrats tend to think that it's the other party that's threatening democracy. Alicia, I've lost track. I think you're our lead.
I think all of these are fascinating polls, and to see where people are. I think, we just got through the holiday season, those of us who buy gifts for family and friends, and yeah, people are spending, and we're seeing that. But what we are starting to see, and we will continue to see over the first quarter, is that spending is coming from credit. People are going into debt to maintain their current habits and ways of life. And so while we perceive the economy bad, but we're spending the same, both things are true. And that's not good in the long term if it doesn't turn around. The other one that I found interesting here, and I find them all interesting, is the immigration views. And I find that in my personal life. What we see on TV and the talking heads and these people are racist and down with brown people and all the horrible things that I think that are happening in cities where the government's going way too far. And I'm for secure borders, and I'm not for open immigration, but it's kind of getting a little crazy. Most people feel that. Most people go, yeah, I want to close the borders too. Yeah, I want legal immigration. I don't want rampant open the borders and not know who's here. I think most people feel that. And then most people look at some of the videos coming out of these cities and go, okay, you're dragging a pregnant woman across the ground. P.S. She happened to be a U.S. citizen. They're coming out like the deputy head of ICE came out about a week ago and said, because the person said, I'm an American. They said, well, you have to start carrying your papers. No. American citizens, we do not live in a show me your papers nation. And we should never be told by a high ranking enforcement officer of our government that we do. And so I think what's happening is it's going a little too far. And then you see propaganda out of Hollywood, by the way. Yesterday I saw that movie, One Battle After the Other, which takes the extreme. And I knew what it was going in. I didn't care about the politics. I never do when I'm trying to be entertained. It's just not a good movie. The dialogue is crap. The acting is mediocre. Sean Penn is one note like he has been for 40 years. DiCaprio's fine, but he needs to brush his hair. Anyway, those who want to see it for the politics of it, it is completely one-sided, which is perfectly fine. They're allowed to do it. It's just not worth your time. Don't spend the $7 like I did.
Ooh. Can I give a movie hot take? Oh,
Left.
yeah, I'll give you a choice. Left hand or right hand? Quick,
Left.
pick. All right. Left hand. Everything Everywhere All at Once was a shitty movie. You want the right hand one?
Yeah.
The Barbie movie was an even shittier movie.
Barbie movie is one of my favorite movies of the last decade. You watch your mouth.
Oh, hey, come on. The patriarchy doesn't like that.
I don't care.
Hey, speaking of the patriarchy, Paul, what's your winner?
You know what's there are two that are particular that I'm having trouble deciding between. One is about the economy, and the other is about democracy. In terms of the economy, we're in real trouble we're in actual trouble on the economy. The credit card debt for consumers, as Cynthia just pointed out in the scroll, is huge. People are buying on credit to a unhealthy extent. That's not great. The stock market is piddling along. The tariffs are crushing small businesses. Prices are crazy high. They are not coming down. So inflation is a real problem. When it all comes together, and we're about to see this incredible spike in healthcare costs because couldn't get it together to deal with Obamacare. So we've got a real trouble coming on the economy. And then we get to the issue about democracy, where people say, oh, yeah, democracy's at risk. But the divide between the people who think it's Trump and the people who don't think it's Trump is really, I confess my inability to understand how anybody could not say that Donald Trump is an authoritarian who is destroying our democracy. But apparently, there are a lot of people out there, including a lot of people who are listening to this show, who are supporters of Trump. And apparently, they don't care about democracy as long as they've got credit cards. So those are the two things that really get me.
I'm going to give my answer by way of just popping some comments that I really liked up on the screen. We have Carrie Ann Fisher saying, rich people be shopping. We've got a disagreeing view, and I want to stay true to my word here and put up, this is a dissenting view. Salty Colonel 2169 says, there's a couple pocket economists that keep telling us the market's going to crash, but American consumerism is up, prices are down, and investments are pouring into the country thanks to Trump. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on the facts there, but I respect the view. And then I just like putting this up on the screen because man who needs cookies says, I love to be used as a human toilet. And I'm just going to let that rest there. I think you're right that the nexus of issues around the economy and some of the misunderstanding that the last commenter, Salty Colonel, was putting forward there. I think that is the most interesting public opinion. Look, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. You can use statistics to prove or misprove any point. I think a lot of the increase in consumer spending is driven by absolute price levels. But I will say prices are not down. Prices are very, very much not down. Investments are not pouring into the country. Our trade deficit is actually up by $112 billion. That's just not factually true. So I think it's that divergence in public opinion about the economy. All right. Let's move on to our firsts. We have sourced this from the New York Times list of first time ever events of the year. And I'm going to run through these super fast. Here we go. A song from a blockbuster movie is the first K-pop hit with female lead vocalist to lead the Billboard Hot 100 list. That's the song Golden, sung by the fictional group Huntrix from the Netflix animated movie K-pop Demon Hunters. We have an American as Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. And yes, that was some seriousness whiplash there. We went from K-pop to Pope Leo. But yes, Robert Francis Prevost is the 267th Bishop of Rome. We have a baby with a rare genetic disorder being the first patient ever treated with a custom gene editing therapy. We have a private spacecraft successfully landing on the moon. Humanoid robots competing in Beijing. I got to read just a bit more about this. More than 500 humanoid robots from 16 countries competed in the world's inaugural humanoid robot games in Beijing in August. The robots completed obstacle courses and played soccer, but in some instances, they tripped, fell, and even knocked into their human helpers. We have this interesting fact. Children with obesity now globally outnumber those who are underweight. We have a woman appointed Archbishop of Canterbury. So that means for the first time, a woman is responsible for leading the world's 85 million Anglicans. So those are your first time ever stories of the year. Paul, what is your leading? I did not have this on my bingo card story of the year.
Well, I'm really impressed that an American is now Pope. I think that's a big deal. And I think the American who is Pope is a big deal himself, in that he does not seem to be a hidebound, regressive leader. He seems to be a forward-thinking leader who's got his finger on the global pulse, and I'm hoping that he will continue to lead the world's Catholics and stand out as a voice for conscience and the higher ground of the common good. I'm very impressed with that choice and his leadership.
Alicia.
Most of these, I mean, I agree with Paul and much of what he said about the new Pope, and I certainly was surprised when an American was chosen. But I didn't know most of these till you sent them over, and I'm just going to choose humanoid robots compete in Beijing.
Yes.
Because we're done, I am looking up that video. I want to see this going on, and for some reason, I'm not surprised, except it certainly wasn't on my bingo card.
Wow, that's just so great. The best part of that story was the robots completed obstacle courses and played soccer, but in some instances they tripped, fell, and even knocked into their human helpers. I mean, that's just great news. Like, awesome. I think humans need some good news, which is our next category. But boy, oh boy, I'm gonna go with the CRISPR gene editing for an individual human patient, not only saving the life of this baby, but also creating a platform for future gene editing that can be performed on rare genetic disorders for individual patients. Now that they've kind of created the system, kind of like we did with the COVID vaccine, now that we've created the platform for it, you can customize for other individual patients. This is going to be absolutely huge for fighting disease. We're going to see a rapidly declining cost curve for these kinds of treatments. There will be millions of lives saved in the coming decades due to treatments based on CRISPR. So that is going to be my winner. All right. Let's move on to the most interesting science and technology story of 2025. Now, I have to warn you that there are some rhymes here with our previous category of firsts and our following category of best good news. So we will try not to double up as much as we can. But here we go. Most interesting science and tech story of 2025. Number one, AI systems crossed from assistive to semi-autonomous agents, the first widespread deployment of AI agents capable of planning, executing multi-step tasks, and coordinating with other systems with limited human supervision. Remember, this is most interesting, not necessarily the best story. All right, number two, AI achievements won Nobel Prizes. The Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry were awarded for work deeply tied to AI-driven discovery. In physics, that was for scientists whose work laid the foundation for quantum computing. This all, and in economics, it was the work on how technological progress drives economic growth, specifically within the context of the current AI revolution. Worth noting that previous recent Nobel Prize 2024 went to Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of artificial intelligence. Number three, the first widely validated blood test for Alzheimer's moved toward critical use. Multiple studies in 2025 showed simple blood tests could detect Alzheimer's pathology with high accuracy. Number four, 2025 officially became the hottest year ever, baby. So we're all hot.
Baby, it's cold outside.
No, it's not. That's the point. Number five, private companies quietly normalized routine lunar landings. Commercial firms successfully I alluded to this a minute ago, successfully landed spacecraft on the moon in 2025. Firefly Aerospace landed on the moon. Their Blue Ghost mission achieved the first fully successful commercial soft landing. It should be noted that Intuitive Machines' Odysseus lander did land on the moon in February 2024, but it landed on its side. So it's considered a partial success. Next, microplastics were found everywhere, including throughout human organs like blood, lungs, placentas, and reproductive tissue, to euphemize. Next, and related, a global plastics treaty failed. So that's a thing. And finally, we got closer to finding evidence of life beyond Earth. We had exoplanet research showing tantalizing signs of possible life in gas on the distant world K2-18b, which is also the designation for the bot trolls that are in the chats, and a significant finding from the Perseverance Mars rover of a potential biosignature in a rock sample. All right, I'm going to advance our banners, and I'm going to turn to Paul to choose our most interesting science and tech story.
What you missed was the Harvard professor who thought that Atlas 3I, the comet, was actually an alien probe.
Wasn't that 2024, man?
I don't know. No.
It was this year? All right.
That's this year. And so he's my candidate. He's my story. And the only other thing is that Trump probably renamed that Trump Atlas 3I because he liked having a space, something in space named after him. I only wish that he had been on some of the commercial landings on the moon. But the scariest story for 2025 is, of course, the global warming, climate change, hottest year on record. We are so fucked, people. And the current administration has just got its head up its collective fucking ass about what to do. We're fucked.
Wow. But
Happy New Year.
yeah, woohoo! All right. I just want to note that as we're recording this, we have a late breaking entry for important news stories. High inflation and a currency collapse have pushed Iranians to the streets. and squeezed their budgets. I'm just reading a headline here from the New York Times. Protesters took to the streets of the capital, Tehran, and other cities in Iran on Monday to decry surging inflation and the collapse of the national currency. All right, Alicia.
First of all, this AI stuff creeps me out. I'm all for 500 humanoid robots tripping over soccer balls. That's entertainment. But when you get to semi-autonomous, then I'm like, okay, no. So I'm not going there. I'll tell you what one really excites me is the validated blood test for Alzheimer's move toward clinical use. Literally one of my most favorite people to ever walk this planet was my Grammy Harris. She fortunately got late onset and passed at 87, but she had Alzheimer's. And anyone who has known or loved someone with the disease or with a caregiver for someone with the disease understands how horrible it is to be able to know earlier on and in a less invasive way by a simple blood test if someone has potential cognitive problems with it and maybe walking down the road in Alzheimer's, and to be able to treat it. They can slow it down. They can't cure it, but that's a step that for me personally, I'm very excited about that one.
I am, boy, you guys are better at making choices here than I am. I might have to the comment that's up here, LB thing S stuff more 9513 is saying Star Talk. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson's show is a great interview with one of those physics Nobel recipients. I believe that was with the other co-winner, John Hopfield, not Jeffrey Hinton. I believe. And I look forward to checking that out. Jeffrey Hinton, by the way, made news because after becoming the godfather of AI, he left the board of Google because he was so worried about the impact that his creation would have on humanity. And I don't know. I feel like I might have to go once again with the first one here. I know I'm like boringly tilting into AI like podcasts are wont to do these days, but gosh darn it. And I kind of agree with you, MJ. AI is a cancer on our already uneducated population. Agree with you there. But I think this role is beginning to take semi-autonomously. Yeah, that makes me nervous too. So I'm gonna
just look at how well Western society in particular, has handled the introduction of smartphones. 20 years, we're all addicted. We all have cervical problems. Our kids can't focus on anything. I'm an addict. I've got ADHD. And just think, if we've handled that so well, just think how well we're going to do with AI.
I have to say, it is true that Paul has ADHD. And I mean this in like a nice way. When I used to work for him, our staff would sometimes say like, Paul, we have to keep you focused. Look, a blue car. So yeah, it's an issue. But it's also a superpower when you're a member of Congress and you have to think about 20 things at once. All right, let us move on. We are rounding the bend toward the end. I would like to hit on our 9th category, which is best piece of good news for the year. Please, for the love of God. By the way, I said I use AI for help on research. Please, for the love of God was a ChatGPT inspired insertion. So there you go. I mean, it's getting creepy here. All right, here we go. Number 1, Amazon deforestation fell again. Brazil reported another major decline in deforestation, extending the sharp reversal from earlier years. Number 2, global life expectancy rebounded and surpassed pre-pandemic levels. Humans are living 20 years longer on average than they were in 1950, according to new research across 204 countries, although there is an emerging crisis of rising death rates among adolescents and young adults. Number 3, extreme poverty continued to decline outside conflict zones. There's a big caveat on that because it's not declining overall. Number 4, a monthly pill showed strong protection possibilities against Lyme disease. That is correct. Tarsus Pharmaceuticals is developing an oral pill that's like a drug used in pet meds that paralyzes and kills ticks after they bite. You take it before an exposure, up to 5 hours or a day before entering a tick-infested area, and it kills the tick. Next, endangered black rhinos were successfully reintroduced to Rwanda. That's good. Clean energy hit record deployment levels worldwide. I know this is of great interest to you, Paul. I'll just note a few numbers to throw at you rapidly. The world added 380 gigawatts, or if you're Professor Doc Brown, gigawatts of new solar in the first 6 months, a 64% jump from 2024. Wind energy, a combined solar and wind increase over 400 terawatt hours, surpassing global electricity demand growth. Battery storage, the U.S. added a record 39 gigawatts. So it's been a great year for renewable energy. Major cities saw continued declines in violent crime. This is a trend that started during the Biden era in 2023 and 2024 and has continued. And finally, a finding in a survey that 75% of Americans plan to maintain or increase their charitable giving through the end of 2025, despite economic uncertainty, meaning that people continue to help each other even when politics is awful. I can't remember who goes first. I'll say Paul.
Oh, it all makes me really happy. I'm just a happy camper. I'm happy that global renewable energy is increasing. I said before we were fucked. We are, but at least this is a bright sign everywhere but the U.S., where the administration is doing everything it can to crush what is clearly required. Maybe we'll all move to Finland and figure out all the advanced ways we can use renewable energy to power everything. So that's really, really good news. And because we live in a tick-infested neighborhood, I'm really glad to know that if I take Brevecta, which my dog takes, he and I can take the same pill and be protected from ticks. That's really good. And black rhinos. It works on black rhinos just as well as it works on ticks.
All right, Alicia.
I think the black rhinos might have to take a bigger dose than your dog. But I'm actually going with black rhinos. Look, there's a lot of good news. You opted us, for us to choose this year. But I'm going with black rhinos. I do not like wild animals in captivity. The fact that these were bred in captivity and were able to be reintegrated into the wild again is fantastic news. And I hope they continue to do it with other captive animals that there are too many of behind walls. And if they're learning how to integrate back to the wild and humans are learning to teach them better how to integrate, I think that's a great step forward.
I am going to go with the pills against Lyme disease because my wife has a horror of Lyme disease as a mother and as a doctor. It drives her crazy. She obviously has a very, very high tolerance for all kinds of ick that people can get because she's a physician. But this is one form that she hates. She absolutely detests. And I think it would make my own household happier if there were an effective preventive treatment for Lyme disease. And I will note from Kinky Streets and other commenters in the chats, the sad news that Tatiana Schlossberg, writer and daughter of Caroline Kennedy, has died at the age of 35. All right. On that sad note, even amidst our good news category, let's move on to our very final category. Who won the year? Now, I have to give a little bit of a caveat. This is a category that is inspired by the Rewatchables, Bill Simmons' podcast about movies. It is otherwise completely undefined. It is whatever your heart says it should be. Alicia, let's go to you first. Round us out. Who won the year?
Humbly say me. And here's why.
Oh, I know why. Can I show why? Here's why.
Donald Trump Beyond Poppycocks is a podcast that's failing very badly, horrible. But I want to say that Elsa Van Popsicle is the only good one. She's not a rhino. That's fake news. So best of luck to Alicia Prescott Xanthopolous, and let's make podcasting great again.
Yes, so you won.
I won. That's it. One more. In addition to that, not that anything could compete with that. We're rolling out ending the year 2025. And I thank God every day I wake up and every year that I get, and I have a healthy, happy family and a warm roof over our head and overpriced food on our table. And a lot of people, even here in America, don't have those basic things. And so I won the year because I have all this wonderful happiness, joy, and friends like you around me.
That was so nice. Oh my gosh, Paul.
That's so sweet.
You
I'm
compete
really,
with that. I don't want to.
I'm really happy for Alicia because she got out of Matt's basement. She finally got.
We have to explain this.
Okay, way back when we did our podcast.
Alicia's not the gimp.
Okay, our joke was that Alicia Van Poppycock had to live in Matt's basement because as a true rhino anti-Trumper, that's where she had to stay. We fed her pizza by shoving it through a window in the foundation in the dark room. Nobody could get to her. But I'm glad to see that she's got a Christmas tree up. She's got lipstick on. She's clearly happy and healthy. She's out of Matt's basement. So I think Alicia won the year. Matt, I'm very impressed with all the glitz and glam you're doing on your Substack stream. I'm happy to be here. So you guys, I'm a flagrant ass kicker. You guys, ass sucker up. You guys did a great job. I love you both.
I like the idea of being a flagrant ass kicker. I aspire to being a flagrant ass kicker. By the way, great name for a rock band.
Flagrant ass
That's
kicker.
a good one.
Paul and the flagrant ass kickers.
who was my 12-year-old was trying to get me to agree to let him watch The Walking Dead. And so we looked up, and the Google AI summary was that it's inappropriate for a young person his age because of gore and half-eaten corpses. I was thinking, our rock band should be gore and the half-eaten corpses. And I'd be one of the half-eaten corpses. I'd play drums with one hand because the other half would have been eaten. I think that the winner of the year, in all seriousness, I know people in the chats were cautioning us not to buy too much into MTG's transformation. But I think if you escape a cult, you've won by definition. I think that's a good thing. I think the American people are increasingly winning the year because their approval of Donald Trump is dropping precipitously. 1 in 7 Trump voters from just a year ago now regret their vote. If the election were held today, he would lose in a freaking landslide. Elliot Morris on Substack put some really fine-grained numbers to that state by state. So it's not even a question, which augurs well for 2026. And I would finally like to say, I feel like a winner this year as well, because Paul, as you alluded to, these live streams are such a great discovery. They're so much fun. I do pine for our old-timey Beyond Politics Roundtable podcast, old-fashioned. We used to do it on teletype and telex and whatever kind of technology medium we used to have. But it was really fun to do live with the both of you, and I'm enjoying it. And I haven't been able to fully, I haven't fully caught up with the chats, but I will say once again, as always, I'm very, very grateful for people's participation. Even the Trump trolls, I even enjoy. Thank you to the people who kicked them out, but I enjoy seeing them. Even the person who likes to be used as a human toilet, I appreciate seeing you. So with that, we did it. That was our 2025 Balance of Power Awards, the Boppies, the greatest award show out there anywhere. Paul, Alicia, thank you for being on this, for being on the live stream. Thank you to everyone in the chats. I'm not going to see you until it's 2026, everyone. So stay safe, be well, have a wonderful new year, and I will see you in 2026.